Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Jeff Reinahan, First Ward.
Unmute yourself, Bill Carlos, Second Ward.
Ann Berger, Third Ward.
Michael Safone, Fourth Ward.
Stefan Krakauer, Fifth Ward.
Ann Shershon, Sixth Ward.
Felicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Jim Nelson, Attorney for the Town.
John Bailey, Town Supervisor. Welcome everybody to tonight's Committee of the Whole meeting. We have two discussions tonight. Number one will be by Bob Volkheim from the Dutchess County, Innis Avenue sidewalk discussion. Number two will be discussion for 8189 Inwood Avenue. Bob, welcome to tonight's meeting. Thanks for coming out and discussing this. It's all yours.
And I just wanted to mention too, Ann Berger is here. I think she was missed in the roll call, but she
Okay.
is here via Zoom.
Okay.
Oh, yes, you didn't hear me?
Nope, but thank you.
I'm here.
I saw you.
Thanks, Felicia.
Go ahead, Bob.
I'm here too.
Am I being heard through this microphone? Is that working?
It should be.
Presumably.
Just tap you, obviously. Yep.
There you go.
Thank you. All right. All right, well, thank you, town board members, supervisor. Thank you for having us at the meeting. We're here to just give a very brief presentation about the project that we've been working on for a little while now. It's Innis Ave sidewalk replacements and repairs. This project was born out of a study from our county planning department that identified a series of ADA improvements throughout Dutchess County. We've sort of ranked all these different improvement projects throughout the county, and this particular project on Innis Avenue sort of rose up to the top of the list. And we began working on design about a year ago, almost a year ago. It's a county-funded project. It doesn't involve any state or federal aid, so it's being funded by the county entirely. And I'll just run through a little presentation with you just to give you a flavor of the project and what's involved. I'll just start off by telling you it goes on Innis Avenue from the Arnold intersection up north on Innis Avenue to the northerly driveway at Jackman Drive, which is the big apartments on the east side of the road, across from the gas station and the small strip mall that's on the west side. So our intent, and I'll show you this, was to create new sidewalks on both sides of Innis Avenue, all the way through this section of Innis. We have done a preliminary design of those new sidewalks. We are at this point over our budget to do both sides of the road. So we are going to go back and revise the scope. We may do less work on the east side of Innis Avenue, where there isn't a sidewalk now. So we may end up focusing more on the west side of Innis, where there is already a sidewalk, and we're just going to replace and improve that sidewalk, and then do some improvements and ramps and curb ramps and things like that to improve accessibility on the east side of Innis. But like I said, we're over budget, and we're gonna have to address that through some change of scope. But I'm going to show you our preliminary design, which is both sides of the road, and then we'll answer questions if you have any. So our agenda, again, just to give you a project overview, talk about our objectives, existing conditions, what we plan to do, schedule and budget, and any right-of-way impacts, and then I'll answer questions to the degree that we can. With me tonight, I'd just like to introduce our project manager. I'm the Commissioner of Public Works. Soma Matthew is our lead project engineer for this project. And also not here today, but very much involved in the project, from Dutchess County Planning Department, Emily Dozer, who you probably all know. I believe she lives here in town, and she's very active in a lot of planning efforts. But Emily has been very much a part of this project through its design. So our objectives are to basically provide ADA compliance and, for the pedestrian access through Innis Avenue, fill in gaps where the sidewalks don't exist, repair the sidewalks where they do exist and they're in poor condition, add curb ramps and other access features. Part of this project, although separate but adjacent, is we're doing a new traffic signal at De La Val. So we're going to be replacing that traffic signal along with this project. They're separate projects, but we're going to try to do them at the same time. That traffic signal replacement will include all new handicap accessible curb ramps at that intersection. Again, just to make sure that people can get back and forth all the way up and down the Innis Avenue corridor. So we want to implement complete streets elements to enable access and usage for all road users, vehicles, mobility devices, public transit. We're trying to incorporate all those complete street elements to the degree that we can based on our budget. We want to provide consistent travel lanes. Right now that the lanes are a little bit different in sections of the road. And we want to provide a consistent shoulder width, which we think the 11-foot lanes are about a foot narrower than what's there now. And we found that by narrowing the lanes, that reduces speed. It's just sort of an inherent thing that people tend to go a little slower when the lanes are a little narrower. Just for context, an interstate highway lane, like on I-84, is 12 feet wide. Some of your local town roads are in the order of 9 to 10 feet wide. We try to aim for 11 feet wide on our county highway system as a general rule, and that's what we would be seeking to do on this project. We also want to improve traffic signal operations at De La Val Place and Emmett, as I mentioned, and all of the improvements are going to be dependent on our budgets. Just a couple of slides to show you some of the existing conditions out there on Innis. You can see in some areas, like the top picture, there aren't any sidewalks at all, but we know there's pedestrian usage because of the footpath that people have beaten down. And in other areas, there are some sidewalks, but very narrow, very irregular surfaces, certainly not compliant with ADA standards, and certainly not conducive for users who may need mobility devices, wheelchairs. Even families with strollers are going to have a challenge out there. So we certainly identified that the need exists. Very simply, this is a typical section of what we intend to build. We're going to restripe the travel lane at 11 feet, as I mentioned. We're going to try to provide a consistent shoulder width, and then we're going to build along the side. We're going to build a curb and a buffer strip anywhere between 0 and 10 feet wide in some areas, and then the 5-foot sidewalk, and then grade it off to match the other property lines that are the properties that are already there. Very quickly, I'm not going to go through these plans in painstaking detail, but I just want to show you some of the scope that we're talking about. This is where the project begins at its southern end, at the intersection of Arnold and East Arnold. We will be proposing some crosswalks, all new curb ramps at all the corners, and then sidewalks moving out. And I'll see if I can point with my cursor here. This is a new sidewalk. This is the west side of Innis, and on the east side of Innis, the same thing. Again, the east side of Innis, we're going to look closely at how much sidewalk we can build on the east side, just due to budget constraints. This is traveling north from that intersection, and again, same thing. We have driveways and we have residential sidewalks that lead to and from people's houses. So our goal would be to incorporate those driveways and those existing sidewalks into our sidewalk project, so that there is full mobility at all of these properties. Continuing along up to De La Val and Emmett intersection, this is the intersection that we'll be providing a new traffic signal, all new equipment, new poles, new lights, new controllers, new electric service, all brand new, with pedestrian crossing phases, with pedestrian signals, and again with the crosswalks and all the curb ramps that we need to do there. Again, continuing north along Innis, we start to get into the area where the Ridge, I believe it's I believe it's Ridgefield on the
Ridgefield.
east side,
Ridgefield's
and it's a newer
Ridgefield's
name
on
for the west
east.
side.
Ridgefield's on the
East side.
east side.
Ridgefield's on the east side, the one across the street.
It was Mountain Brook.
Yeah,
I don't know
Mountain
if it's
Brook,
now.
right, exactly. So this is that area between the two. Right now, in the area along Ridgefield, there's a really, really wide paved shoulder, which is, it doesn't really serve any purpose. Our goal is to reduce that shoulder width to about 4 to 5 feet, and then put a new curb, a new sidewalk, and some drainage. But there is, as we've discovered, there's an extensive amount of drainage work on that east side, and that is driving up the cost significantly. So we're gonna have to really look carefully at what we can do on the east side. Again, right now, there's no sidewalk there, but there is the wide shoulder. If we don't do an actual sidewalk, we're gonna look to do whatever improvements we can on the shoulder just to make it safer. And again, squeezing that lane down a little bit will hopefully mitigate some of the traffic speeds.
I travel that road quite frequently,
Mhm.
and I used to live over on Lindbergh, so I don't necessarily think doing anything on the east side is going to be a benefit to you. I would consider more on the west side with maybe a crosswalk east
Right.
to west, because all the businesses are on that side.
Yeah.
I would much rather have one long path all the way into the city of Poughkeepsie on the east side. You have the park over there. Everything's on that side.
Absolutely.
Putting anything on the east side just seems like you're not going to have. I don't think you're going to have a ton of people walking on that road. with
Yeah, and
traffic everything.
that's sort of where we landed, as I mentioned earlier. We're gonna kind of take a second look at the east side and see what we really need to do there. Our goal was to really, go the full Monty and do full sidewalks on both sides. Our budget probably isn't gonna allow that, and to your point exactly, we look at the east side and we say, other than people from the apartment complex going across the street, how much are they gonna really go up and down the street on the east side? Probably not that
I would rather
much.
see a bike trail on the east side, because when
Yeah, we
people
could-
come out and ride their bikes, people that
Yeah, we could,
need to
right, we
use the
could
sidewalks can. and-
utilize that wide shoulder for something like that. Yeah, we're gonna look at that because our budget's gonna sort of force us into some of those decisions.
Plus, you don't want to be clearing snow on both sides of the sidewalks.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, we're gonna look carefully at that, but I think our budget is gonna sort of lead us to more or less where you're going. We get up to this is the intersection for Mountain Brook, and assuming we're gonna we plan to do all the work on the west side, so we're gonna wrap those sidewalks into the sidewalks that go into the development there. Again, moving north, we're now into some of those businesses, the strip mall, I believe that's a chicken restaurant or something like that, or it might even be a butcher, or it used to be the butcher. So again, we're gonna continue the sidewalks all through this area, and again, now we're at the mobile station and the gas station and the little strip mall. Continue the sidewalks there, and as you can see, this is where the sidewalks would terminate. I'll just show you in this location, if I can get my cursor back, right in this area. We're proposing to add a bus shelter because that is a county bus stop. So we do want to, at the very least, create a bus stop there for people to get on the bus safely. That's where the sidewalks would terminate. This is a little bit hard to see, but this is an up-close view, sort of an up-close view of the new traffic signal at Emmett and De La Valle. Again, all new signals, new poles, new wiring, new equipment, new controllers, all LED, and again with the pedestrian phases, full pedestrian phases. Our schedule. So we are, I'd say, maybe a little bit more than 50% through our design process. We intend to finish the process and develop bid documents by the fall of 2022. Go out to bid, receive bids, award, and be in construction in the spring of 2023. And we believe it's a relatively simplistic project. It would be one construction season, so the project would complete in fall of 2023. Our budget for the traffic signal, as I mentioned, they're two separate pots of money, two separate projects, but we're going to combine them in the same construction effort. Traffic signal at Emmett and De La Valle, we have about a $250,000 budget. We feel comfortable with that. And the sidewalk improvements, we have $1 million budget for that construction. And right now, our estimate is about between 1.5 and 1.8 million for the project. So we're well in exceedance of our budget, which is again why we're going to have to really look closely at that east side and probably scale that back as Mr. Safone had you kind of alluded to. As far as right-of-way, we don't have any needs for right-of-way acquisition, no permanent rights-of-way. We may require some temporary easements where we work along people's property just to, have construction access where we can work on the sidewalks and then restore the property. To the degree that we can, we're going to try to work on any private property to do driveway, reshaping the driveways and grading and things like that. We're going to try to do that with property releases, just getting permission, a written permission from the property owners to do that under a property release. That pretty much concludes what I wanted to share with you all. Again, just for information purposes, Soma Matthew, as I've introduced, is our project manager. There is her contact information. I'll be providing this information to the board. I'll email it to, I suppose, Ms. Salvatore, giving it to you, and you can put it up on the website or share however you folks do that. But that's...
That'd be great.
I have a sort of generic question.
Sure.
What's sidewalk per, I don't know if it's per square foot or per square mile or per mile, like what's a sort of rule of thumb cost?
We don't do enough sidewalk projects to
Can
give
you
you
stop
that kind of
sharing?
answer.
Can you stop sharing your screen?
Did I, or would you
Could
like me to?
I think it is.
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Stop sharing it.
Yep.
There you
Perfect.
There you go.
Thank you very much. So yeah, we don't do enough sidewalk projects to really
Yeah,
give you a
okay.
thumbnail, sort of a global estimate of how that goes. This project, it's a little unique because it isn't just sidewalks. We're doing bus shelters
Right.
and a lot of other things that kind of go with it, some drainage work
Yeah.
too. So unfortunately, I'm not really able to give you a kind of
Okay.
a thumbnail.
All right, that's,
It'd be a nice planning tool if you were doing other things
yeah,
around
that's right.
town.
Yeah, this
But we'll give you our numbers if it helps. I just don't have a sort of a aggregate number for
okay,
you.
all right, thank you.
Anybody have any other questions?
Anybody? Bill, do you have any questions? Diane?
No?
No?
No,
Sorry, I was muting you before, Bill, but you have some feedback there.
No, Bob, thanks for coming. I mean, that's definitely a neighborhood that could definitely use the upgrade.
Yeah.
It's heavily used.
Yeah, and we know, right, where there are no sidewalks, we see the foot trail.
Can I ask a question
And
too?
we know there are gaps in the sidewalks, yes.
Is it when you're coming from Marple, is there going to be a left turn lane? I know, or is that still going to be no left there?
That's going to remain the same.
Okay,
We're
just
not
asking.
widening to put turn lanes in. It would be
Okay.
really, really impactful for the residents there.
Just asking.
Looks good, thank you, appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much. If you have
Thanks for
questions,
coming.
you'll have the contact information and we'll be able to get you those answers.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Somebody
much.
said as a resident of Innis, thank you very much on
Oh,
the chat.
great, thank you.
Next, we have 81 and 89 Innis Avenue, Inwood Avenue.
good evening, this is Kelly Leibel.
How are you, Kelly?
Would it be okay if I shared my screen?
Yep, go ahead.
All right.
Bill, I'm just going to mute you for a bit.
Okay. Thank you for having me tonight. If you recall, I'm Kelly Leibel with KRC Planning and representing the applicants for and the owners for 8189 Inwood Avenue. I think everyone knows where this property is, so this is just an aerial presentation. If you recall, we were before this board back in January, and we presented our plan to you, which is that new urbanism plan. I think the overriding predominant feedback was that it looked too institutional and too crowded, and the board was looking for some additional green space, and also to address whether or not the balance of the undeveloped area would be forever preserved. So I think that those were the two things that we were tasked with taking on. So as a reminder, this is this long, narrow parcel. access right now is off of Inwood, and then down here, this is an old photograph, but this is what we had is the Psych Center, I commonly call it the Psych Center Home Depot, so it's a long, narrow parcel. Currently zoned R2A, and we're seeking to have the proposed rezoning to RM for multifamily. Again, just existing conditions, just for everyone kind of lay of the land, and I'm happy to walk out there with anyone if you want to before the scrub kind of gets too overwhelming. But this is this big ridge where past here, it just gets very, very steep onto the property. So Inwood is on this side, the Psych Center and the rail trail is right here, and so this is that ridge where everything drops down. This is just a snapshot of what I'm going to go over. So there's a lot on this screen, so I'm going to blow it up and you'll see each of these individual slides later, but I just wanted to give you kind of a snapshot. So what we're proposing is 47 structures, and each of these structures has 2 units. So again, these are owned, not rented. Really, it's a duplex, but they're owned structures. Each unit has 2 bedrooms, with the exception of 4 buildings. We're just kind of testing the water, and we're proposing 3 bedrooms. No change in the overall footprint of the building, just a reorientation inside of the bedroom units. Again, it's 33.6 acres. This was a gated community with private roads, municipal water and sewer, community building, and amenities. And I'm going to go into these photos in greater detail, but we broke up and made some significant changes to the architecture of the building. If you recall at the last presentation, we had a smaller building and we had a larger building, and the larger building was actually 4 units together. And we agreed that it felt, very institutional when you had buildings like that and didn't fit neatly into this single-family residential community that this is set within. So the architect, Wisconsin McCormick and Voorhees, went back to work and created these 2 concepts. So we have some break in the architecture, and we can work on colors and materials and so forth just to break these up. So we have 2 types of buildings, type A and type B, commonly look more similar to a, 2-story residential structure. What you'll see from the road, because this is that new urbanism design, would be the space of the building. You wouldn't see the garages and so forth. They're all in the back. And, separate units, entrances for each of the units. So this is the overall amended site plan. I think it was perhaps Stefan or someone at the last meeting had indicated, did we really do our due diligence on the wetlands, which we had. Our design predicated some of the wetland information back from Mike Nowicki, and so we've gone out, surveyed all the wetlands. This is an accurate plan showing all of the wetlands. I have another slide so I can show those to you, but it required some more curvilinear roads and separating the buildings, and it actually, in my opinion, worked out very nice because you've got some separation of the buildings and some green space in between the units. So you enter through a gated community. You have the community building that's in the front, and 3 structures here, which people would see if they're driving along Inwood, really representing 3 single-family residences, and then the balance of the site is in the back. We created a large park area here in the center. There's a space here that we could utilize to do some amenities with, and then this is just a general location for stormwater treatment. As I indicated, the balance of the property can be and will be preserved permanently, whether through a deed restriction, an easement. We can certainly discuss that with the town planning board, the town board, legal department, and so forth. This, although it's hard to see, I just wanted to point to where the wetlands are on this map. I know there was some discussion earlier with the town board, and they had asked that I just represent and identify where all of the wetlands are. These have all been, again, identified and flagged. It is our intentions to, hopefully if we are referred over to the planning board, to coordinate with the town's wetland consultant, Carol Knapp. I've already had a discussion with her about this, that this would be forthcoming. And at the planning board, that's where the mechanism enables us to set up the escrow accounts and work with the consultants on identifying some of these issues. So we feel very confident with the location of the wetlands. These will be protected, there's no impact to the buffer, and we can continue to present that information to the town via the planning board and the consultants. These again are the two building types, again, just a larger screen so you can get a sense. We're hoping to play with some of the colors and materials, and we can certainly elaborate on these further with this board and with the planning board during the public review process. Again, these buildings, the front of the building faces the road, and then all of the back of the buildings, garages and so forth, are through the common alley. This is just a breakdown of what the side of the building would look like on the type A, the footprint. The footprint for A, just to give you a perspective, is about 1,386 square feet. So it really is kind of the footprint of a single family house. This is type B. The footprint is about 1,700 square feet. And then this is the floor plan. Just to give everyone a perspective, because some the members in the public may not be as familiar with the town board, town application for rezone, the process. And it is very much back and forth generally between the town board and the planning board. So this is a long process. There is a lot of opportunity for public comment at many different steps of this review, and for the town and the town's consultants' comments. So generally, a application for rezone goes to the town board. If acceptable, so that's in the blue where we are, if accepted by the town board for a continued review, not an approval of the rezone, we would generally be referred over to the planning board to complete the seeker review of the project. During the planning board is when many of the consultants are involved, public hearings involving the public in the design and the layout. Once the planning board completes a seeker determination, that would enable the town board to actually adopt a resolution if they chose to of the rezone. Once the property would be properly rezoned, then and only then would the planning board be able to issue site plan approval. So it's a lot of back and forth. So I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that it is a very lengthy process during this review. So that is my presentation. I'm hoping I addressed the town's comments and the comments that were raised at the last meeting.
What percentage of the acreage is going to remain open?
It is a little less than 50%. So the impacted area is 17.9, so it's approximately 15 acres.
Now, Kelly, that percent that's being supposedly preserved, how much of that is actually wetland?
There's a fair portion of it. I don't, do I have the exact acreage for the wetlands? I might. I don't. This calculation is slightly off. So the last calculation was about 1.6 acres. So I'm thinking it's probably a little over 2 acres.
Is part of it steep slopes also?
Yep, steep slopes we did the density calculation is, we use these, is 3.3 acres.
Tony, I'm not sold on the new urbanism design, and I think it's still a little too big. So I think we should sit down and discuss this a little more before, it's big, and I don't think we're crazy about the design.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's pushing way too much in it. That lot is a weird lot. I think it's just pushing way too much down into there. And the density, if it was a square, maybe the density might make a little bit of sense. But you would describe just a long strip of land. With that type of lot, that density doesn't make any sense to me. It's literally jamming in everything you could possibly jam in, and it seems like it's just way too much.
I think we can make a much better project. We should really sit down and have a conversation.
I'm happy to sit down. I'm just not sure how, when you have a lot that's able to be developed, what the concern is. We created additional green space. What the concern is about the density.
Well, it's right now zone 2 acre, correct?
Correct,
So
yeah.
you have a lot that could be developed for 16 houses. So, I mean, not every piece of property in the town or around would make sense for multifamily. So that's what it is. So if you're, I guess,
I agree.
if you're
Yeah.
confused, that's what I say. It just, I mean,
I think what we're trying
it is zoned for 2 acres.
Yeah.
Multifamily
I
to
think we're
me,
trying to create housing that is available to people that they can actually own, that is reasonably priced and not, an individual house where people have a house and a fenced-in yard and, they're maintaining this property. The nice thing about this opportunity for, first-time homebuyers or workforce housing is that this has an HOA, and the maintenance of the site would be performed, by an HOA and not the responsibility of the individual property owner. So it really allows a large density of the market to be able to afford to buy a house.
which is fantastic as long as it fits with the property. If it doesn't fit with the property, then there may be a need, but if it doesn't fit with the property, it just doesn't fit. So there might be other places where you would put something like that, and that would be a great thing to have. But not everything,
Okay.
not everything fits everywhere.
I guess I missed, I thought at the last meeting, everyone, the summation was, the concept was acceptable, but it was just too institutional. I think, Stefan, that was your word, and that it was too jammed in. And so we worked really hard to really add significant green space here and create some curvilinear roads and pocket parks in between these structures.
So I guess maybe that was presumptuous on your part, so.
Well, I have to say, like I said, when you look at this design, it is new to the town, I would say, the urbanization look. And I do agree with some points that, this is a project that could be for these, single-family people, maybe one kid, don't want to have much upkeep for property and stuff like that. So I'm not totally against this project at this point.
No, there's a lot of pluses that go with it. The gated community. When I first met with you, I told you that's what I wanted, and home ownership, and I'm good with that. The design lacks a little bit. I would gladly meet with you and show you some other parcels in town that I'd like it to replicate. But the new urbanism design, I don't care for.
Well, actually, I think it's rather attractive. Now, do we have a rough idea of what the price points would be for these units?
No, and that actually is a very good question, and I will get that information for you so that we have that. Based on this market, I'll get that information for you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ann.
Okay.
Sorry, Ann.
Yeah, and also, are there going to be any other amenities with this? Are you going to have a pool or anything else with it, or is it going to just be like a playground? Maybe you said there was going to be like a clubhouse.
Yeah, I can just pull this back up again. I think the amenities, we'd like to try to work with the town and determine what is really one of the best, things that we can add into this area. So we have a park in this block, and we haven't identified, what could be in there, whether it's gardens or passive or active recreation. Certainly, we'll have sidewalks and so forth and walking paths. We have a dog park over here. And then this whole area in the front is a community building, which there's certainly a lot that we can put in there. And then there's the large area in the back. So as far as the specific amenities, we haven't identified those, but certainly created those pockets that we can add them.
Yeah, because there are people who are looking for this. I know I have a sister-in-law and a brother-in-law in something very similar to this, and they're really happy. And they don't want to shovel their sidewalks and plant the bushes. They want everything taken care of for them, and this is something that's really coming.
I agree with you. I guess I can't please everyone, but I agree with you. Thank you.
Kelly, why don't you sit down with Mike and go back over it and look at it?
Okay.
I think the positive, I like the homeowner part. I still think it needs some work. I mean, it's better, I will say it's better than the first one, but it still
Right.
seems to be we're putting a lot in a space because if I'm not mistaken, you got all the wetlands there, so there's really no extra green space per se besides park area, and the other end is all cliffs. So to save green, I think we could probably work a little harder, and I agree with Mike looking at some of the other projects in the town that we do like. Maybe we could change it up a little bit more and bring back something a little different.
is it fair to say that it's the overall density and the lot, overall lot coverage that is your concern, or is it,
Density is a significant issue, I think,
Okay.
because
Well,
the amount of people that would be pouring out from there into that neighborhood is significant.
Well, I think it's a matter of opinion
Hold
right
on.
now, when you look at it, so I see that, I'm gonna put an Ann on the spot, I think Ann isn't totally against it, I'm not totally against this either yet, so I'm not sure why we're gonna go revamp it so far,
No.
just because so far, Jay, you haven't put your input in there, but just because two of the board members are, sounds like totally against what this project is, I'm not sure how the others feel.
I just think.
Yeah, Ann wants to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Felicia. I just had a question, around the density. Could it be less units? Like boats?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm getting conflicting information. So if it's less units, we can just kind of break it down. I think that that's something that I would love to sit down with Mike and see if, some reduction would be amenable to him and to Stefan. If it's redesigning this whole new urbanism, that's a problem because, again, we've invested so much time into this. I truly believe in this. I think that this is an up and coming concept. I think, people that are young and people that are professionals want to have housing stock that they can own and not maintain it. And this is the mechanism, to facilitate being able to do that. Redesigning the whole site is a concern of mine. Reducing density, I think that we can live with.
And that, Kelly, can go hand in hand. We're not saying redesign it, there's changes that could be made. It's just, it looks better than it did the first time. The first time it looked like an Army camp base. So you have made some changes that are positive, but I personally think it still needs some work. I think having condos and townhouses there are great. I think there's a condo townhouse situation down there off of Camelot Road that is beautiful. I mean, look at places like that. This, to me, looks, if it wasn't in the right spot, it still looks to me like it's a city block. It just needs, the ones down off of Camelot Road it looks like a neighborhood. It looks like a true neighborhood. It's got, turns and winds. It's just not everything lined up. I love the idea you're going in the back of these houses and using the garage in the back. Gives you that Wilbur Boulevard look, which is nice, neat, and clean. There are positives, but I think it's just, one meeting to two, it just doesn't get an okay from this end. We have to have a full cover, and I don't think anybody here really is saying no as a whole. There's just, we all have different pieces. It's not conflicting. Jeff has things that he thinks are good. Mike has things that he thinks are good and things that should be changed. And sort of likes it. There are pieces I like and there's pieces I don't like. As I stated before, that piece on the end is staying as green as possible is something we definitely need, because when everything's getting built behind there and what you have on the other side are all small single-family homes. So, just to dump not an apartment complex, but a complex like this in the middle, it's got to blend, not 100%, but it's got to blend into what it is. I think it's getting there. It just needs work. I think Inwood Lake up there is nice also. That's not a bad one. Going on Camelot Road is a nice one. They have character and a little different. If you had something that compared to something you knew that was built that looked like this, I'd be more than willing to go look at it. Because maybe on paper it looks one way. It looks like some of the plazas we built. They look great on paper, and after you build them, you're like, how did this end up this way? I mean, so.
Okay.
I gotta say, Jay makes very good points. The one down in Camelot is, and I have no idea what the density isn't there, but it is. You drive in there and it's a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And Inwood Lake, again, I don't know what that is, what the density is or isn't, but you drive in there and it's a neighborhood, and it's nice. It doesn't look crammed in. It might be a lot of people, but it doesn't look that way. And I do think that people want to own their home, but if it's too dense, it's not necessarily what I think there could be a fit there. So I'm not like you people could characterize me as an absolute no, but I'm not. I think there could be a fit there. It just should be the right fit. And the way it is right now, it doesn't make sense there. I think you could put that strip in different pieces of the town, the city, or somewhere in the county, and you go, yeah, I like that. Eastdale, I think, is pretty dense. Eastdale doesn't wouldn't necessarily fit right there. If it was part of the larger project and coordinated in, I don't know, maybe that it fits, but it just looks like it's sitting there all by itself. It's out on an island, and it does that kind of density out on an island to me it just seems weird. It doesn't So,
Again, not to be repetitive, but it sounds like the concept of the new urbanism is acceptable, it's just the density needs to be revisited.
not completely. I think it's a little bit,
Too much and everything's on top of
I think it's a
each other.
mix of both. So I think the density is a concern. From my perspective, the density is a concern. The concept of new urbanism is fine, but maybe not there. So that's what I say. I think if you change the density, it will change that to some extent as well. Like the new urbanism, and I didn't look it up. I don't know the definition of it. But when you say that, I like the original sort of what Jay said, military encampment. That's what I just keep picturing is new urbanism is like a city block dropped in the middle of somewhere. To me, that's not what fits over there. It shouldn't be a city block. It should be.
Yeah, it's a different type of community. That's really what it is. So it's you create a neighborhood that has walkable components to it, and that's the concept, is a type of community that is dense with walkability.
But then that to me would be, there's that green area, there's a pool, like which I think Ann asked about, there's a playground, there's a ball field. That's like a community. Just housing is not a community, it's housing. And people come and go because they gotta live somewhere, so.
I think the density is too high. I noticed on your letter, you went from 42 up to 47.
Yeah.
It seems to be shoehorning in as much as you can so you can get the profit out of each one of the square feet that's there. I'm not a positive no. I'm sort of like Stefan. It is too dense. This is going out onto Inwood Avenue, okay? So where it is and how many housing units are in there, in my opinion, is critical. And this just looks shoehorned. It's just too dense.
Okay. All right. I'll reach out to Mike and see if we can sit down and I'll look at the Camelot location as well.
Yeah, Kevin,
And see,
if you have any also that fit this sort of design, let
I
me
do.
know, and I'll gladly go out even with you to look at them and try to compare them
Okay.
to get a better concept.
okay, very good.
And I think what it, well, sorry, Bill.
Place over on Walk Hill that has this kind of concept, but it was intermixed. It was individual houses, and then there were, like townhouses or 2 or 3. It was not bang, 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 right in a row.
Okay,
And I think for Inwood Avenue, the north end of the town, more town-like would be better, less city-like. Nice presentation, thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Ann was saying too, is I think cost is another thing you want to look at because, again, everyone knows what the house market is like now, housing market is, and how costly it is. And again, for somebody that's just starting out, this, if the price is right, I'm not saying this is like a mobile home park, but it's a more glorified, it's like the same density. It's just another option for somebody that's starting out to choose this kind of a style, which, like I said, I slightly agree with what they say with maybe removing some of them out of there, but I don't think it looks like a barracks or anything like
No,
that.
the
I
first
mean,
one did.
not this one. I mean, this one, like I said, it's, like I said, sidewalks, you walk around. I mean, I don't know, that's what some people want. Some people don't want, the upkeep of a big house, and some people can't afford these big houses. I mean, it's, it sounds odd because it's new to this town. So,
Right.
And
Yeah,
Jeff,
but we have some of these out by Innis too, where they're condos and townhouse communities. One of them's even gated. Yeah, so when you go further north, there's a couple of complexes like there.
Jeff, as you're seeing, we see what apartment buildings being built. They are being all used. There is a waiting list now for quality apartments. People today don't want to do the yard maintenance. They don't want to take care of, this gives you,
They don't have
I'm
time.
not gonna say the best of both worlds, but it does. They get to
It
purchase
does.
something, live in it.
Yeah.
They're not renting storage units now because they have garages, they have storage space. They actually have a
Right.
home, but on that Saturday, instead of cutting the grass and doing all that, they can still go out, enjoy what they want. It is a little bit of a
Right.
change. I just think it needs some work.
Okay.
I didn't hear anybody say we didn't like it, we just want to improve it.
Yeah.
It's too big.
Let's get it right the first time.
I just don't want her to go revamp the whole thing thinking that,
no.
just because some people have some negative input that she should go revamp the whole thing.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, Mike, I'll reach out to you and we'll try to set something up and see if we can come up with some locations to visit.
Thanks,
Okay,
Kelly.
thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We're done with that. On the committee reports, finance.
Franco from sewer about some rates and different things that may need to be adjusted. And then Charlie's gonna get back to us with a little bit of additional information, because we don't wanna raise anything without the need and the justification. Other than that, nothing to report.
Okay. Technology.
Yes, our website had 30,600 visitors last month, which is a 12% increase over the previous month. And the three most popular pages were the main page, receiver of taxes page, and pay taxes. So no surprise there, property taxes were due, so that's what was popular. And right now, under our email, our Gov delivered email system, we have got 5,650 subscribers, and that's 144 new subscribers over the previous months. And other things we've been talking about is researching IT infrastructure upgrades and looking for a new phone system. And also we have obviously, with what's going on in the world, concerns about cybersecurity. So Tim's been reaching out to the employees and educating them about looking out for cyber threats. And we're also looking into moving our email into the cloud for additional security there, and looking for a new backup location for our off-site backup for our computers.
And along the line of what Ann brought up about cybersecurity, we've been bringing up at all department head meetings. When you get emails from town employees.
Yeah, stop
just make
emailing me,
sure you-
Jay.
Yeah, exactly.
Do me a favor.
Yeah,
He
I
keeps
know.
emailing me.
Yeah.
I get that one.
And that is
Yeah.
one. They are doing a lot of phishing. They're getting a lot of stuff. They're picking up our emails off the website. So if you
You got
get
the
some,
gift cards I sent you, right?
no, that's the problem. I don't get what everybody offers. I mean, that's the problem. But that's what we're getting. We're getting a ton of those out there in different people. So please look and match everything up to make sure we don't get hacked. We've been lucky so far. So let's try to keep it that way. Recreation, Mr. Rennie.
Yes, registration is now open for summer camp online. So, of course, get there early, sign up. The Spring Jubilee still set for April 9th at Greenville Park, 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. They're going to have the egg hunt, canine demonstration, police child ID, pet and zoo. You know, they still encourage you to sign up if you could, you know, register online there. They're also still looking for summer help. They're looking for a summer camp nurse or an EMT is needed for the summer camp. And there's other positions. So just really go to the website and look for the jobs that are posted on site, on the site there.
Fire advisor.
Let's see this one. Okay. We discussed some issues with securing some of these vacant buildings that we have throughout the town, you know, because there's some issues with kids going inside some of these buildings. So we just talked about making sure they're secured so nothing happens in those buildings. We also discussed inviting the fire departments to go along with the building departments when they're doing acceptance testing, especially like on alarm systems, you know, sprinkler systems, stuff like that, just so the fire department just has better knowledge as well of the systems that are being installed in these buildings that are inside their district. You know, they're going to send out the invite to these. Like I said, if the fire departments can make them, you know, I know that, you know, it would be a lot easier for, you know, Fairview and Arlington, since they have paid staff on do it. In regards to New Hamburg, of course, they would send out the invitation. If somebody's available, they'd go along. If not, then they would go by themselves. And just a reminder that the New York State burn ban is going into effect next Wednesday, the 16th of March until May 14th. You know, a lot of times people mention, you know, what can you burn? Of course, you know, we're a town that's larger than 20,000, so it affects us. You know, you can still burn, like I said, recreational inside your, you know, your property. That's just the limit is 3 foot high, 4 foot wide type of thing on approved, you know, fire pits, stuff like that. But just, you know, use common sense. You should still go by trying to keep open fires at least 25 feet from combustible, you know, shed, house, pool, stuff like that. That's all I have.
Infrastructure.
Yes, just to kind of update the board on this, you've probably heard talk about it or information on it, and we're talking about sewer and water rates. And this part of what I'm going to give you is on the sewer rates. We have had a very low price for sewage for a long time. And Frank Ozani, who's our sewer superintendent, he came up with a plan. I would call it stratified. In other words, at the very top of the list would be a single family with a single sewer connection. And it would run down the gamut through multifamily
Bill, can you turn that
apartments.
down?
Bill, can you turn your volume down a little on your something or other?
How do I do that?
Um,
How about I back up?
that works.
That works a little bit.
Other room.
Try outside.
You can fry an apple two ways. Okay, so we have now some industrial places that are putting more than just sewage into our sewers. And it's screwing up the pH, it's putting chemicals into the system. We have a hospital, we have 3 colleges, each with chemistry and biology labs, and that material is going into the sewers. So to deal with that, sewers are going to have to be, how can I put it, upgraded, updated to be able to deal with this. And Franco came up with a good plan. As soon as we get the stratification right, starting from a single-family house and going to a college, or going to a major apartment building, then it'll go to finance and they can put whatever we need to do to cover the expenses. And I would hopefully bring something back to the board on the stratification of this thing, where you can look at it on a piece of paper at our next meeting. That's all.
Personnel.
Nothing to report this time.
Right. Building consolidation, we met today. They have a beginning plan. We still have a long way to go, a long process. Our next meeting's in 2 weeks, and Bill and Stefan will send you the connection to come to that meeting. And we're probably gonna have an in-house meeting we're putting together once they send us the plans that they put together today, so we can all meet in-house to go over some of what's out there before we have our next meeting. But things are going along slowly. They're making progress though. So we're getting there. It's time that we start bringing different people in the police department. Met with them last week to try to sit down and go through the design of what should be there and how the flow is supposed to be. So it's getting there. We're making progress. We've been meeting every other week with them. So the next meeting, I think it's the 23rd, I'll send out everybody an email. Then I'll let them all know when we're having the meeting amongst the departments in here. It'll be the police department, director of development, legal, and a few others, and you guys to make sure we go over what we have so far, so everybody's on the same page. And then supervisor's report. In April, we're gonna be having a cleanup. It's been coordinated with the CAC to clean the streets close to Earth Day. If anybody knows any group or organization that's willing to help or wants to pick up a location, reach out to my office and we'll coordinate getting a hold of the CAC to get a location, a spot. We've been dealing with the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, Marist College fraternities are now getting involved, and a couple other organizations. You know any other organizations that want to get involved and have a location, or they're willing to offer up a location that they want to do, tell them to reach out to us and we can do this all at one time. And the other thing is, we've been getting, a lot of people have been getting water samples put on their doors. Just so the residents know, this is not through the town of Poughkeepsie. This is a marketing tool by an environmental agency who wants to do a sample of the water to try to sell you either a water softener or a chlorinator or something along that line. The town tests their water on a regular basis. We send out quality reports every year. This is not something required by the town, not something condoned by the town, and they did not get peddlers permits in the town. So feel free just to tell them to go away, and if they do come around, feel free to call our office and we will send somebody out to make sure they do go away. They do not have the authority to be handing these out in the town and going door to door.
And I just wanted to say that the St. Patrick's Day parade this past weekend was really nice, and it was nice I didn't have it the year before, and it was really nice to see everybody out and enjoying themselves, and it was a lot of fun. Just
It
thought
was a
I'd
good
mention.
parade.
It was a good parade.
The town had a good turnout, you know, it went very smooth. I don't think there was any issues at all
No.
throughout the parade.
Traffic maybe a little for those trying to get through 9, but other than that, very nice.
Anybody have anything else?
Excuse me.
Jim?
There were 4 copies of.
Yes, I have them.
Thank you.
I need Bill and Ann at some point, maybe this week, to come in and sign some documents for me so I can notarize them. Thank you.
Can I make a motion to suspend the rules for any non-agenda item?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Does anybody have, Doreen?
Thank you. I'd just like to point out, you know, it sounded like Ms. Leibolt was a little annoyed about some of the comments, and she said, you know, they had invested a lot of time in this, but if I'm not mistaken, that property, you know, it needs to be rezoned, and the owners should have known that the property was for 2-acre residential. So, you know, if they want a rezoning, you know, it seems to me they should be willing, very willing, to work with the board to reach, you know, what the board wants, instead of just saying, you know, well, we spent a lot of time on this. You know, again, if you bought it knowing it was a particular, zoned a particular way, then either you need to conform to that zoning or be willing to work with the town board for a zoning change that's agreeable to everyone. And I do hope that there are permanent restrictions for the wetlands. And I also have concerns because the consultant that was mentioned lots of times says that the wetland quality is not good, and so, you know, there doesn't a lot of times seem to be the real interest in preserving wetlands. And again, I'd like to, you know, remind you, you are part of a climate smart community, and, you know, that involves tree preservation, wetland preservation, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? If not, make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Everybody have a great night. Bill and Doreen, have a good night.
Thank you.